People need to be careful of your comments, FCC, you know, as warned us. Hi, everybody, it's 7 o'clock. This is the August 7th, 2023 Hamlin Planning Board. This time, I'd like to point out the exits: out the door on the left, down the stairs, out the door on the right, the end of the hall. There's an AD on the wall, if needed. At this time, I'd like everybody to turn off any of their cell phones or any other electronic device except for mine. Okay? These are member, so you can get that. So that everybody has a chance to be heard properly.
Steve Loss is excused. Dave Martin,
Here.
Chris Schleiter,
Here.
Mark Ellerstein,
Here. Here.
James Nesbitt,
Here.
Steve Hittner,
Here.
Sharon Steigerwald. Here.
Very good. We've got a couple of public hearings tonight. Cheryl, would you like to read proof of publication?
Sir, could we please approve the minutes from July?
Okay, that's right here in front of me. Does anybody have any corrections?
I'll second it.
All right, that was easy. All in favor? Okay, proof of publication.
Okay, first public hearing is for a special use permit for Thomas Calandrillo, 660 Walker Lake, Ontario Road. Application for Thomas Calandrillo, owner Thomas Calandrillo, seeking special use permit approval to operate a landscape maintenance business located at 660 Walker Lake, Ontario Road. He is proposing to build a 36-foot by 40-foot pole barn on the property to house the equipment required for the business. He has received the requested variances from the zoning board of appeals. This is his second appearance before the planning board. He was asked to submit a proper site plan that shows the new building and the drainage. He will also provide a proper letter of intent, tax account number 14.04.001-014.1, and this is in the RVL zoning district. The second public hearing is a preliminary and final single lot subdivision for Don Soames, 530 Morton Road. Application of Don Soames, owner Don Soames, seeking a preliminary and final single lot subdivision for lot 2 of the Heberly Soames subdivision. The intent is to obtain approval for a single-family home with associated improvements on 8.85 acres. This is in the RL zoning district, tax account number 006.120-02-016.111.
Okay. As far as the first public hearing, is there anybody here from the public that wants, from the applicant? Okay. And I expect you have some newer plans, comments from JP, or?
I believe, good evening, everyone, Matt Funnell, Trump Associates. I believe JP was generally good with the plans. You guys haven't received, you guys have updated copies with the,
With the zoning?
the variances are on here. There's a notation for that, and there's also contours showing finished floor elevation of the proposed building and contours to show drainage.
JP isn't here tonight, but if you would like to give a copy of that to Keith, our attorney, you can take a look to see if the zoning is proper, if the variances are listed. If there's any other concerns, notwithstanding. We'll talk about that. Before I open it up to the public, is there anybody here? I just want to see a show of hands. Is there anybody here from the public that have a concern or want to comment on this? No? Okay. preface what we're going through and keep in mind you're looking at the plan. I personally have a concern about having to issue a special use permit for a business that's being, I guess it's, when you're out doing landscaping and cutting lawns and all that other stuff, it's not on site. In the zoning for this property, it's not listed as a permitted use. Okay? Only that the definition of home occupations in our attorney applies this under a certain code. And in the RVL district, it doesn't have an allowance for it. On the other hand, I feel, my personal opinion, okay, this direction, this is no different than someone that has a painting business that does off-site, or does on-the-road repairs of automobiles, building houses, you know, doing work that is not conducted on site. In a brief run around the neighborhood, I looked at over 40 properties, and approaching 28 or 29, trying to decide the difference between a whole building and a big garage. Okay, that is what I found. Okay, people use them for storage. If somebody has a business and they have a bunch of dump trucks or whatever, whether or not it's in the district that it can be, okay, you don't see a lot of them from the road. If you have somebody that has a construction business, which does off-site, they have a barn or a building, they put their equipment in. Okay, those that don't create somewhat of an eyesore. All right. It's my understanding, even though this property is waffled back and forth, between this wanting to have a building here for storage of the landscaping equipment and a dump trailer or whatever, between that and the possibility of it being a dog grooming business. But that has been changed, okay? The applicant's wife has another spot where he does that. The only concern was for the town at the time, okay, when the applicant was directed to go to the zoning board, was he already had auxiliary buildings on the grounds that is up at the standard level of what we would approve. So what's meant was he's got an extra building. So in order to take a look at that, the request for a site plan was made. Okay, because you look at things like drainage, you look at things like the notes, you look at to see where things actually are on the property for setbacks and all that other stuff. And he went to the zoning board and he got variances for this stuff. All right, but the fact that he supplied a site plan kind of drove it to us to take a look at the plan, and some reasonable requests as what needed to be on there for completeness of the plan. All right, and that kicked in the public hearing. And that's why we're here tonight. Not so much, we were trying to fit it in as a special use permit, and if we do it here, I feel then it begs the town's gonna have to, every time you have somebody that's a painter, a carpenter, a mason, or what have you, a landscape contractor, or a snowplow contractor, okay, it's gonna have to come in for a special use permit. This is kind of a gray area. If you ride around Hamlin, every other person in the country has a pole barn, but he's got storing something. So, as we go forward on this application, you do bear that in mind. Do we need a special use permit for this? And now I'm going to turn it over to our attorney.
The code enforcement officer has determined that it's required. And upon a plain reading of the statute, it says that there is provision in the RDL for principal uses permitted, subject to special use permit approval by the planning board. And where you have use of an accessory building for a purpose not specifically listed above, but deemed by the planning board to be similar in nature and compatible with the RDL, that allows you to make the finding that the proposed landscaping business is similar enough to the permitted uses, well, as an accessory use in this case. And if you find that to be the case, a special use permit issues, and the code requires a site plan with the special use permit, which is basically where we were last month.
Right.
So if you're satisfied that the submission is complete, you're at a position that you can make a vote, and whether you can have a finding that is similar.
My concern, back and forth we go, all right, is the reason why we have special use permits, okay, not the fact that sometimes it creates spot zoning, but it gives an approval process to go on to make sure that there isn't any adverse impacts on the residents surrounding the district, whether it be noise, site characteristics. All those things are covered under town code, that if it was violated by noise, or all of a sudden there was piles of landscape, I'm gonna use you as an example, piles of landscape chips, or a bunch of plants sitting out there for a week and you're watering them or whatever, those things, if they're disturbing, and it means, brings the business into a retail use, at that we have the ability through code compliance to bring them in then, because what is happening becomes an actual on-site business that has retail. Okay, at that time, then they wouldn't be in compliance with town code. I'm saying the very fact that it's a barn to be used for storage should be allowed. If it needed to have a variance for that, okay, then the zoning board probably should have directed them either back to us or for some kind of legal decision making. I just think, I feel special use permits not the right tool.
Chris, wouldn't we end up with a special use permit track because we thought the dog grooming business might be there, which caused the business
And-
versus a
and that-
storage?
And that could be, and that
So
was,
that's off the table now.
that was a fear, okay? But if that were to happen, for whatever
Then
reason,
they have to get a special.
then they'd have to get a special
But
use
it's not
permit.
on the table.
I feel with COVID and the way people were retiring and some people are in good enough health to keep having some kind of business as they get older and being able to be creative to a point, all right, where they're gonna go make their wage off-site. Or they're in the country, okay, so to speak, and this is an appropriate area where you could do that and not doing it in the city of Rochester and Lake Hill. Okay, so, I'm not looking at doing any denials, so I'm just trying to bring this out, and, I know we discussed it last month, but it just hasn't set right with me. I don't know about the rest of the board. At this time, I think maybe we should discuss it. And if we need to approve the site plan, we can approve the site plan. And go from there. So, Cheryl,
Well,
I gotta include you in the discussion.
yes, we are not here for site plan approval, we are here for special use permit.
Right? That's correct.
That would be your choice. Change that, have them come back with it. We can't approve the site plan approval unless we have a site plan,
Right.
and it's expensive.
But
What is that?
there was corrections that needed to be in the site plan that was provided before. Keep this in there.
I have no concerns about the site plan, frankly. adding the details regarding what the zoning board did or didn't do doesn't really change the substance. The site plan is in and of itself, when you get to that point, usually a site plan of this type would look at what's going to be stored inside, what's going to be stored outside, if anything. Many municipalities would allow you to store a lot inside, but not so much outside, or maybe nothing at all outside. Those are decisions that the board has to consider, or not.
You're saying about the site plan made the difference in this?
If there's a site plan that's provided, normally it'll come to us for the public hearing, for whatever project. He's been back and forth in the approval process. That being said, if we want to use, I don't know which vehicle to use.
Right.
And they have this handbook, but it's a dangerous precedent to set. When you have people out there that conduct their business off-site. The discussion as far as what would be in the pole barn would be a very natural requirement for a fire marshal and code compliance to say, look, are you gonna store fertilizers in there? Or anything else that can cause fumes, fire, what have you.
Say the same with me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, would site plan approval be required simply for the accessory structure? With no consideration of special use permit?
Not necessarily, it wouldn't need to be unless the placement of the new building caused the problem, whether it be site distance, drainage, and all this other stuff. He's up on a hill here. So it'd be more like just a building permit for the building. Site visit and see whether or not it needed to have, additional things like, it's too close to a conservation corridor, or, other stuff. So that's where we are.
May I offer something?
Pardon me?
May I offer an observation?
Yes, you may.
Philosophically, it may be that you would like the town board to revisit certain provisions of the zoning code. But in terms of what we have before us tonight, this gentleman has already spent his client's money on a site plan
That's right.
and a special use permit application. So it would seem to me, if you're sympathetic to the applicant, vote on the special use permit, have him come back and bless the site plan because we didn't notice it for the public hearing for the site plan, and we're done.
It's up to the board.
Just don't do it again.
Just worry about the precedent it sets.
I disagree with the precedent. I know that it's a popular argument, I know, but it doesn't set a precedent. It's really the code enforcement officer's interpretation of the code that's before you tonight. And like it or not, that's her interpretation, and that's her job. She's the gatekeeper. And so she's already made that decision. And Cheryl, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Don't kick me in the shins.
You too, Colin.
I know, there you go. Well, that, and I am wise, I learned from experience. Site plans required with the special use.
That is correct.
All right, then we're kind of committed to this
Yeah.
track.
And I do agree with Attorney O'Toole that since we've gone through this process for the special use permit, that we need to finish it. He's already paid his fees, and then.
At the very least, I think this needs to be looked at to make sure that the road we're taking is the right one. Because we are in an agribusiness community, and there are pole barns all over the place. All right, they're being used for storage. Okay. Now, Sharon brings up a good point about what's in that pole barn. Okay. For the fire department and all that other stuff, but I think we need to look at the code to decide whether it's a license or what have you for these types of things. if someone wants to make a motion.
I will make a motion. It's okay.
Yeah.
You're right. That for the special use permit for Thomas Calandrillo at 660 Walker Lake, Ontario Road, that we consider for the purposes of seeker this action to be an unlisted action. And for the purpose of conducting an uncoordinated review under seeker, and the planning board finds that the action has no significant environmental impact and adopts a negative declaration.
Second.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Aye.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Mark Fowlerstein,
Yes.
Steve Hitman.
Yes.
Do we want to have a motion to close the public hearing?
We never made a motion to open the public hearing.
Well, you did ask in the beginning of
Yeah.
Do you want to close it? I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing for 660 Walker Lake, Ontario Road.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Mark Fowlerstein,
Yes.
Steve Hitman.
Yes.
Okay, second item on the.
Wait a minute, we do a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. For the special use permit for Thomas Calandrillo at 660 Walker Lake, Ontario Road. The applicant for Thomas Calandrillo, owner of Thomas Calandrillo, is seeking a special use permit approval to operate a landscape maintenance business located at 660 Walker Lake, Ontario Road. He's proposing to build a 36 by 40-foot pole barn on the property to house equipment for his business. He has received the variances required from the zoning board of appeals. He has also provided a letter of intent. Tax account number is 14.04.001-014.1. This is in the RDL zoning district. You would be approving this as a proposed accessory use, being similar to that of a nursery.
Do you wish to impose any conditions of approval?
Yes.
Okay. My thought on that is with the site plan, we should have JP look at that first and see if there's anything that the town engineer,
He did.
he has looked at
Yeah, he
it,
said-
because I have got a note from him.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know, any conditions, folks? I can't think of
Outside storage is usually what comes up. But that's just how it is.
Outside storage, what?
Whatever it is you don't want stored outside.
that. We can deal with that on an annual basis.
I would think so on special use permit, and the only concern I have is the fertilizers.
And there wouldn't be any of
Anything
that,
that's flammable,
yeah, well, gasoline, but that would be in the storage cabinet,
it'd be a can.
yeah.
And you're not gonna store.
No, I
it
don't
in
stockpile
mulch,
mulch
You
or
said
topsoil.
before you go and get it.
Right.
So no outside storage of landscaping products.
I don't feel I need to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, some board wants to do that. Okay, that's it. Any seconds?
Second.
Second.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Chris Schleider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Mark Fowlerstein,
Yes.
Steve Hitman.
Yes.
Okay. You ready to go to the second item?
So we're coming back next month for the site plan? Public hearing, is that what we're doing here?
No,
I thought you approved
site
all
plan's part of the,
Or the special use permit?
Okay.
So we don't need any agency approval beyond JP giving his blessing.
You know, before, all he's gotta do is sign off on it. Approve it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, second item, public hearing for Don Zones, 530 Martin Road. Somebody here to represent?
I'll just stay up here.
You got a nice shirt.
All right, so this is a project that we started back in March. This is a almost 9-acre parcel on Morton Road, more recently subdivided a bigger parcel, proposing a single building lot for one single family home with associated improvements, water at the road, the leach field, all of the utilities at the road. We started this process back in March, and then realized that there was a discrepancy between the GIS labeling the EEC regulated wetland and where we thought the wetland was. So we waited until June to have the EEC come out and do their delineation, which is the only change on the plans from the original set in March. There are no noted value changes since the original plans. The wetland, the 100-foot wetland buffer is part of our area of concerns.
Okay. JP has sent a letter to us stating that he has reviewed the plans for the above work for the project, prepared by Schultz, based on the review. My previous engineering comments have been addressed. With that, I'd like to open up the public part of the hearing. Is there anybody in the public that has a concern or people that are going to be voting on it? I guess not.
Well, they're number 3 on the agenda.
Number 3 on the agenda. So there's nobody here that has any concern or public. This time, I'll close the public part of the hearing. And questions, Keith?
No concerns, it's unlisted.
Sure.
No concerns.
Keith, you did mention there was a shed which encroaches on the neighboring property, but it's not a planning board issue, it's an issue. And the rest of it is your recommendations for secret.
Yeah, so unlisted should take care of it.
Sure.
No concerns.
We're good. No comments?
Someone want to make some motions?
Make the motion for, Don Sones, 530 Morton Road, type 2 negative deck,
No,
Unlisted action.
type 2 unlisted.
no,
I'll take.
unlisted, classified as unlisted with a negative declaration.
Classified unlisted with a negative deck.
I'll second it.
Full votes, please.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Slider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Mark Valentine,
Yes.
Keith Hicken.
Okay.
And for the preliminary and final lot subdivision of Don Sones, 530 Morton Road, seeking for lot 2 of the Heavily Sown subdivision to obtain a single-family home with associated improvements on 8.85 acres. This is in an RL zoning district, tax account 006.120-02-016.111.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Rich Slider,
Yes.
James Nesbitt,
Yes.
Mark Valentine.
Yes.
Keith Hicken.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, everyone. It's got, MRV and Alpine. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is a special use permit for a single apartment and a single family dwelling. Laura Spalvey, 2898 Roosevelt Highway.
Do I have to go over there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't spotlight.
There's no one here.
Don't step on that wire.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm not sure what, should I just tell you what I'm trying to do?
Just what you want to present.
Sure, we own a home in Hammerheisen, and, I have two, 16-year-old boys who are autistic, and they won't be able to, live on their own when they turn 18, so I'm hoping to build, an addition onto our home that has, apartment type areas for them, so they can be independent, so.
So I know you've had some contact with Cheryl because we have some people
Yes.
and I guess we're gonna go around the table here a little bit and see what they're coming up with. Keith, any questions, concerns?
So the way the code reads is that if you want to add what is in effect an in-law apartment, it's done on a temporary basis. And the design has to be such that it can be decommissioned when the time arrives. And during the course of its occupancy, it has to be designed in such a way that it is tied into the original house. And I don't mean just touching it, but the living space, the dwelling space is integrated. And the theory is that the occupants of the main residence and the occupants of the in-law can go back and forth without going outside. That's in part what distinguishes it from being a two-family. The code also requires that the primary occupants continue to live there, the owners continue to live there because they're living with family, they're not renting it out to strangers. So those are the concerns I want to talk about here. Looking at the design on this page, on the back here, it looks like the two units are actually separated such that they look more like a two-family dwelling than an integrated or extended one-family.
I was actually hoping for that, to have a certificate of occupancy, so it would be like a two-family, in case one or both of the kiddos someday were able to go off and at least try to live on their own, and I can have another autistic adult, like, stay there, if it's possible, so it would be able to stand on its own, for that purpose.
And I don't think the code allows that.
Interesting. Not at all. Okay. So, they do, are you familiar with LPWDD?
No.
Okay. So, when they turn 18, they will get, rent payments, whether they're with, if they're out on their own, but not if they're home. So if it was a separate apartment, they would be able to get the rent payment for their living expenses. So I was told I'd have to get like a certificate of occupancy for that reason as well.
Well, you can certainly get a certificate of occupancy, but what you're looking for is a certificate of occupancy that says that this is now a two-family.
Yeah.
And
Well,
in essence, this is not really a two-family, it's more like an extended one-family.
are there, certificates of occupancy for extended one family? Probably not, right?
I don't know how Cheryl would write it out.
If it's considered to be a single apartment in a single family dwelling. This would be a single apartment, a single family dwelling, but there's two bedrooms. So we have to,
It's a single apartment, it's for two people.
yeah, specify that, yeah.
You need a certificate of occupancy to live there, but I mean, it's just that the building was built correctly. It's a certificate of occupancy.
Okay. So I have to talk to LPWDD and make sure. that it can comply.
It doesn't have a separate address.
Right, it doesn't have to, like, if they had, it doesn't have to have a separate address.
It doesn't separate utilities either.
Mm.
It has to have your, has to share your utility. If that makes sense.
I don't know, I just need to find out. So can we pause this?
You'll have to go to zoning, the planning board is going to have to recommend that you go to zoning anyway, to need zoning, for the setbacks.
Okay.
Of the addition, and, in the paperwork too, in the application of special use, it does say that, whereas all utility services must be shared by the apartment occupant and owner occupant of the dwelling, so it's single electric, gas, and water meters.
And the interior of both spaces are supposed to be connected without going outside, which you could accomplish if you take the existing porch
Yeah,
and close to heat that.
yeah, it would be enclosed.
It should be a regular condition space.
Oh, it has to be.
I believe, I'm gonna look at our code enforcement officer to verify that.
I believe we've done something very similar with having porch enclosed at another property. We had an in-law. Co-joint space, and they use the porch.
And put a door to the kitchen.
Yeah, we
There's all
have
kinds
two
of
ways.
architectural.
One door through
architectural-
the kitchen and then,
So your door to the kitchen would be a lot
You
cheaper
did
than
one.
enclosing a door.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it takes a little.
Then we did
There's
the one
options there.
and had, it went from the master door, went from the master bedroom to the kitchen.
Yeah.
On Church Road.
Looks like the porch is already enclosed on these drawings, is that correct? Yeah, so I mean, heated it is.
I agree with what Mark said.
Oh, thanks.
Well, all you have to do is move the door that's in the living room. Door in the living room.
That way you gotta modify that location.
So you gotta modify the kitchen, so you move the kitchen second. This is,
Your choice.
without having heat in the porch, and the only entrance exit there would be like you're promoting a Johnny on the spot. You have to go outdoors every time you had to go to the gym. You know? And we've gone past that.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, I guess the recommendation is to go to the zoning and ask for the variances that you need in order to accomplish this. During that time frame, you might want to get together with Mr. Laney and talk.
Heat.
You didn't get that one?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I get.
So you'd have time to talk to them about what our requirements are. You have to share utilities, okay? And there has to be some place where you can coexist and get to both spots in one central area. Okay, we can do that, we'll work through Cheryl, and there was one other thing. The driveway,
I have no concern about the driveway
It
myself.
was JP's
Oh,
comment.
JP.
Same
Yeah,
character,
Jake, no, right.
be sufficient, but something that issue.
Yeah, they can't
No, it's just to get them from the house.
drive. Oh,
It wasn't about driving.
How many square feet are you adding to the dwelling?
I'm sorry?
How many square feet are you adding to your,
I don't know. It didn't matter to me as long as, I don't know. if
I mean,
they-
the framework is already there for the house where it sits, or you just be adding more to the existing structure, or?
Adding on to the existing structure.
Yeah, just for the,
It's like 26 by 32.
okay. So that is right there. Yeah. Okay, that's the, right here.
so the easy answer is the motion to send them on to zoning and, we've already spent some time doing some measuring, and I'm sure when we look at this and so. You know, pretty much what they need to have in the way of variances.
Chief, you also mentioned, to make sure you have sufficient water and sewer. So don't forget that, it's gonna take a qualified person to check the leach field. So, you know, that's just, yeah, yeah, he's, yeah. You're on city water?
I know I had commented before that if we didn't have a kitchen in there, it would just be an addition. I know, yeah, so.
No, it's in the law.
Mhm.
Similar.
So we want to make a motion to move this ahead? Zone?
Glad to make a motion. That for the special use permit, single apartment and a single family dwelling for Laura Spalte at 2898 Roosevelt Highway, seeking a special use permit for single apartment and a single family to include 2 bedrooms. This is in the commercial general business zoning district. Tax count number is 021.03-1-24. Received several documents, and we're recommending that this be forwarded to the zoning board for its approval. Consider variances.
Second. All those.
Sharon Steigerwald,
Yes.
Dave Martin,
Yes.
Bruce Slider.
Yep.
James Nesbitt.
Yes.
Mark Fowlerstein.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Laura, I will get you on the zoning board on August 21st.
Okay, that was in the email, please?
Yep, but I will make sure I reiterate that for you so we can get it in the meeting.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
okay, thank you, you're welcome. This-
Thank
Okay, so
Oh, yeah, take some trees.
There's a couple here.
I'm sure his ears perfect on that one.
Thank you all.
You're welcome, see you again soon.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion. I've talked enough. I don't know if anybody else has anything to discuss. Town board?
Nothing new. Got a couple public hearings coming up next week with chickens. And camping trailers.
What was the other one?
Camping trailers.
Trailers and chickens.
Yeah.
Is there a size limit on the chickens?
Size of
There
the
is on the
chicken?
camping trip.
Yeah, what happens if you throw a turkey in there?
No, just for chickens.
Geese.
Because you got more meat.
There you go.
I still want to know what comes first. I should never lose the chicken.
That's an old question.
I know that.
Yeah.
Steve,
No concerns, like I say, it'll be a contentious meeting again next week, Monday.
No.
No, yeah, it will be. We ran an hour and a half long the last time.
What was that about, Steve?
What's that?
What was that about?
This is the second meeting about chickens and trailers.
Okay.
We had changed stuff after the first one.
Yeah.
So you can't house chickens in trailers, that makes sense.
The sewer line is going well. They're making good progress. Finally got the parts for the main line going up 260. By the end of this week, that should be up and running, actually. But they're still working on putting pumps in down on the lakefront. They're only down to, as of last week, they were down to 13 pumps to put in yet. So they're getting there, doing well. They're already starting to test them. So it's going good. We have a festival coming up in town on August 26th, Farm Fest, where we're gonna celebrate farmers, because this is a farming community, and hopefully a parade going down through town with a bunch of tractors.
Chickens?
There's gonna be a petting zoo.
In trailers.
How did the chicken dance?
And the History Center is being worked on right now. If you guys, the new siding has been painted. What was there, the new siding is going on right now. It is not complete. It'll be complete in another week or so, but, so our History Center, the outside of it will finally be completely done. And all enclosed so the weather can't get to it and bees aren't living in there and the walls and everything. So that's gonna look, like I say, it's looking real nice over there, so.
Anything else? You haven't heard anything on LWRP?
No, I have not heard anything on LWRP. Just that little thing they sent around, something I had to sign about the money and stuff. Once a year you gotta renew it.
Yeah.
So I just did that like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I signed that to renew it or whatever, but as far as that, no, nothing else.
Okay. Keith, we good?
We're good.
Cheryl?
We're good.
There, I just heard a motion to adjourn over here.
If I can ask a question though, on these special use permits, Cheryl, I mean, what if you have a guy that's just, he's got his van sitting in his yard, and he's a plumber or a painter or a carpenter, but he just works out of his van? Does he need a special use permit?
It's just parking his van in the driveway. There's no
But
other equipment
You
outside.
feel that with this gentleman, with his landscaping, it was more than that?
Yes.
That's why you wanted to see a special use?
Well, I brought it to the board, it was the board's decision to accept a special use permit application.
Okay.
I think because it went back and forth there for a little bit too, with the dog business.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Dog business.
Well, that'd be another issue.
Center
That's a
Trails,
separate-
left field.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
What I like about the special use permit is the annual inspection.
yeah,
Because if he's stepping out of line,
yeah.
whatever it happens to be,
You can address it.
yeah, it's kind of, well, we're just around for the annual, let's take a peek.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Gives you another tool.
Yeah, yes. All right.
Because it is a residential area.
Yeah, yeah.
He's out in the middle of nowhere, but
Well, then things do happen.
When you walk off his property and you trip in a furrow, okay, there's somebody cultivating the ground. I think he's in an agribusiness community, to tell you the truth.
Mhm.
And that's why people move out here. They want space to grow.
Yeah.
I just voice my opinion. It's just,
Well, everybody's entitled,
so.
yeah, you speak.
Cruises this year.
No.
It'd be nice to have a home.
Pretty busy. I don't know what.
One of these
I believe we have.
I don't know who seconded
I've been there.
He said
I
just
don't know if you
a
want one for
second.
Chris.
Yeah.
He said just a second. Just hit the second. Give me a second.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got a second one too, to give him one or something, give this one.
Dave Martin, Chris Schleider,
Yes,
Steve Smith,
yes, sorry.
Mark Valentine.
Yeah, I'm like, yes.
Okay, well done.
Yeah.
It's not